Girl paid for old alien's food. Hours later, Imperial ships arrived at her door. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. In the dusty outskirts of New Phoenix Colony, 19-year-old Maya Barrett worked the late shift at the Stellar Stop, a convenience store that served both human colonists and the few alien travelers who passed through this forgotten corner of space. The bell above the door chimed, pulling Maya's attention from the inventory checklist she'd been working on for the past hour. The Stellar Stop was never busy at this time of night. Most colonists were home, and travelers rarely stopped except to refuel. She looked up, tucking a strand of dark hair behind her ear, and saw an elderly Valerian shuffling through the entrance. The alien moved slowly, leaning heavily on a walking stick fashioned from what appeared to be polished driftwood from his homeworld. His skin, a pale blue-gray, hung in loose folds around his neck and jaw, and his 4 eyes, once bright yellow, Maya imagined, had faded to a dull amber. He wore simple robes of a muted green material that had clearly seen better days, frayed at the edges and patched in several places. The Valerian's breathing seemed labored as he made his way through the narrow aisles, occasionally stopping to examine an item before moving on. Maya watched him discreetly while pretending to focus on her work. Valerians weren't common in this system. They typically avoided human-controlled space since the diplomatic tensions 30 years ago. This one looked particularly old, even for a species known for their longevity. After several minutes, the elderly alien approached the counter with a small selection of items: a container of nutrient paste formulated for Valerian physiology, a bottle of purified water, and a package of medicinal tea leaves that Maya recognized as a remedy for joint pain. The old Valerian placed his items on the counter carefully, his hands trembling slightly. "Good evening," Maya said with a polite smile. "Did you find everything you were looking for?" The alien nodded slowly. "Yes, thank you," he replied, his voice a soft, gravelly whisper. The universal translator embedded in Maya's ear caught his words and converted them perfectly. "Your establishment is surprisingly well-stocked for such a remote outpost." Maya began scanning his items. "We try to accommodate all species that might pass through," she explained. "Not many Valerians visit us, but we keep the essentials." The elderly alien nodded again, watching as she scanned each item. When she finished, Maya glanced at the register display. "That'll be 38 credits, please." The Valerian's expression changed subtly. His lower set of eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of distress in his species, Maya recalled from her xenobiology classes. He began searching through the pockets of his worn robes, pulling out a small payment chip. When he placed it against the scanner, the register beeped negatively. "Insufficient funds," the automated system announced. The old alien's shoulders slumped. I apologize," he said softly. "I thought I had enough. Perhaps I could return the tea." Maya glanced at the alien's trembling hands, the walking stick he leaned on so heavily, and made a quick decision. She pulled her personal payment chip from her pocket and tapped it against the scanner. "Payment accepted," the system chirped. The Valerian's 4 eyes widened in surprise. "Young human, you cannot." "It's fine," Maya assured him with a genuine smile. "The tea helps with joint pain, right? You should have it." The elderly alien stared at her for a long moment. "Why would you do this for me? Our peoples have not been on friendly terms for decades." Maya began placing his items in a biodegradable bag. "That's politics," she said with a shrug. "And politics has nothing to do with helping someone who needs it. Besides, it's just 38 credits." The Valerian slowly accepted the bag she offered him. "What is your name, young human?" Maya Barrett." The old alien inclined his head in what Maya recognized as a gesture of deep respect among Valerians. "I am Talver Rin, formerly of House Silverian." Maya's eyes widened slightly. Even with her limited knowledge of Valerian culture, she recognized the name of one of their most prestigious houses. She wondered what had brought a member of such a distinguished family to this backwater colony, and in such a reduced state, but knew better than to pry. "It's nice to meet you, sir," she replied with a respectful nod of her own. "Your kindness will not be forgotten, Maya Barrett," Talver said, his voice suddenly carrying a weight that hadn't been there before. Then he turned and slowly made his way out of the store. Maya watched him go, feeling a strange mixture of emotions she couldn't quite identify. Then she returned to her inventory, thinking no more of it than another night's work at the stellar stop. She couldn't have known that this small act of kindness would change everything, not just for her, but for the entire future of human-Valerian relations. For hours later, Maya's shift ended. She locked up the stellar stop and began the short walk home through New Phoenix's quiet streets. The colony's twin moons cast long shadows across the dusty roads, and the climate-controlled dome that protected the settlement from the planet's harsh atmosphere created a soft, continuous hum in the background. Her small apartment was located in a housing block designated for essential workers, a category that surprisingly included convenience store clerks, given the colony's remote location and constant need for supplies. It wasn't much, but it was clean and comfortable, and the rent was subsidized by the colonial government. Maya had just changed into her sleepwear and was heating a simple meal when the building's communication system chimed. "Resident Barrett, your presence is requested at the main entrance," the automated voice announced. Maya frowned. It was nearly midnight local time, well past normal visiting hours. "Who's asking?" she inquired. "Unspecified governmental representatives," the system replied. "Colony security personnel are present." A flutter of unease passed through her. Had something happened at the store? Was there a problem with her work permit? Maya quickly pulled on a jacket over her sleep clothes and slipped into her boots before heading down to the entrance. When the elevator doors opened onto the building's lobby, Maya froze. Standing there were not just the expected colonial security officers, but a full delegation of Valerian officials in formal attire. Their ornate robes and decorative armor gleamed under the lobby's harsh lighting, emblazoned with symbols of rank that even Maya could recognize as signifying high status. At the center of the group stood a tall, commanding Valerian whose bearing and elaborate headdress immediately identified him as someone of significant importance. Behind them, through the transparent doors of the building, Maya could see what appeared to be an official diplomatic shuttle, sleek, gleaming, and clearly military-grade, surrounded by additional security personnel, both human and Valerian. "Maya Barrett," the central figure asked, his voice deep and resonant. Maya swallowed nervously. "Yes, that's me." The dignitary stepped forward, towering over her. "I am Ambassador Kelvax Silverian of the Valerian Imperial Court. May we speak with you privately? I assure you, you are not in any trouble." Maya glanced at the colonial security officers, who nodded reassuringly. "Of course," she replied, still bewildered. "There's a community room on this floor we could use." She led the delegation to a modest meeting space designed for resident gatherings. The Valerians took seats around the table, their posture formal and dignified. Maya sat across from the ambassador, acutely aware of her inappropriate attire and complete confusion. Ambassador Kelvax studied her for a moment before speaking. "Ms. Barrett, earlier this evening, you encountered an elderly Valerian at your place of employment." Maya nodded slowly. "Yes, sir." He introduced himself as Talver Wren. The ambassador's 4 eyes blinked in unison, a sign of confirmation. "Indeed. What you could not have known is that Talver Wren is not merely of House Silverian. He is the patriarch of our house and my direct ancestor, my grandfather, in terms you would understand." Maya's eyes widened. I had no idea." "Clearly," Kelvax replied, though his tone held no accusation. "Patriarch Wren has been undertaking a personal journey these past several months. Against the wishes of our family and the Imperial Court, he has been traveling incognito through various systems, including those controlled by humans." "But why would he do that?" Maya asked before she could stop herself. The ambassador's expression softened slightly. "The Patriarch has long believed that the tensions between our peoples are based on misunderstandings perpetuated by those who have never truly interacted with the other species. He wished to see for himself how humans behave when they do not know they are in the presence of a Valerian of significance." Maya suddenly understood. "He was testing us." In a manner of speaking, Kelvax confirmed. But it was more than that. He wished to experience genuine interactions, free from the protocols and formalities that normally surround diplomatic exchanges. The ambassador leaned forward slightly. "Ms. Barrett, Patriarch Wren has witnessed countless interactions during his travels. He has been ignored, overcharged, misdirected, and occasionally treated with basic courtesy. But tonight, he experienced something he did not expect: spontaneous kindness from a human who had nothing to gain by offering it. Maya felt her cheeks warm. It was only 38 credits. The amount is irrelevant, Kelvax stated firmly. What matters is that you saw a being in need and chose to help, despite the historical tensions between our peoples. You saw not a Valerian, but simply someone requiring assistance. Another member of the delegation, a female Valerian whose robes indicated some kind of advisory position, spoke up. The Patriarch was deeply moved by your actions, Ms. Barrett. So much so that he contacted the Imperial court immediately after leaving your establishment. Ambassador Kelvax nodded. Which brings us to why we are here. The Patriarch has requested your presence at an Imperial ceremony taking place tomorrow on our diplomatic vessel currently in orbit. He wishes to formally acknowledge your kindness and what it represents for potential relations between our peoples. Maya stared at them in disbelief. You want me to attend a Valerian Imperial ceremony? Because I paid for someone's groceries. It is considerably more significant than that in our culture, Kelvax explained patiently. And the timing is fortuitous. The Valerian High Council has been deadlocked on whether to reopen diplomatic channels with Earth and its colonies. The Patriarch's experience may prove influential in breaking that impasse. The female advisor leaned forward. Your small act of kindness, Ms. Barrett, has potentially opened a door that has been firmly closed for 3 decades. Maya felt overwhelmed. What had seemed like such a simple decision, helping an elderly person who needed it, had somehow catapulted her into the middle of interstellar diplomacy. The ceremony will be brief, Ambassador Kelvax assured her, perhaps sensing her apprehension. We will provide appropriate attire and transportation. All you need do is accept the Patriarch's acknowledgement. Maya took a deep breath. When would we leave? Our shuttle is prepared to transport you to our orbital vessel immediately, Kelvax replied. The ceremony is scheduled for dawn, according to your colony's time cycle. You would be returned to New Phoenix by midday tomorrow. Maya glanced down at her sleep clothes and then back at the assembled dignitaries. I suppose I should pack a bag. For the first time, a hint of what might have been amusement crossed the ambassador's features. That would be prudent, yes. 20 minutes later, Maya found herself aboard a Valerian diplomatic shuttle, climbing rapidly through New Phoenix's atmosphere. The vessel was unlike any human craft she had ever seen, sleek, efficient, and surprisingly comfortable despite being designed for Valerian physiology. As the shuttle broke through the upper atmosphere, the blackness of space spread out before them, and Maya caught her breath. She had been born on this colony world and had never traveled off-planet. The vastness of space seen through the shuttle's viewports was both terrifying and exhilarating. First time in space? Asked a human voice beside her. Maya turned to find a woman in the formal uniform of the Earth Diplomatic Corps sitting nearby. She appeared to be in her 40s, with short gray hair and keen eyes. Is it that obvious? Maya asked with a self-conscious smile. The woman chuckled. Everyone remembers their first view. I'm Diplomat Eliza Cooper, Earth liaison to the Valerian delegation. I was called in when this situation developed. Situation? Is that what I am? Maya asked. More like an unexpected opportunity, Cooper replied. The Earth government has been trying to re-establish meaningful dialogue with the Valerian Empire for years. Your encounter with Patriarch Ren might just provide the opening we've been looking for. Maya frowned. I don't understand why it's such a big deal. I just helped someone who needed it. Cooper studied her for a moment. The Valerians place enormous value on actions that demonstrate character, especially when performed without expectation of reward or recognition. In their culture, such acts reveal one's true nature far more than any words could. But I'm just a convenience store clerk, Maya protested. I'm nobody, and that makes it even more significant to them, Cooper explained. You weren't acting as a representative of Earth or New Phoenix. You weren't following diplomatic protocols or trying to curry favor. You were just being human, and in this case, the best kind of human. Before Maya could respond, the shuttle slowed, and through the viewport, she saw an enormous vessel coming into view. The Valerian ship was massive, at least 3 times the size of the largest Earth cruisers Maya had seen in educational videos. Its design was organic yet clearly technological, with sweeping curves and intricate patterns etched into its dark blue-gray hull. The Imperial vessel Solarian Light, Cooper informed her. The personal transport of House Silverian and currently the temporary residence of Patriarch Rin during his journey. Maya watched in awe as the shuttle approached a docking bay that opened like a blooming flower to receive them. The precision of the maneuver, the scale of the vessel, the alienness of it all, it was almost too much to process. As the shuttle settled onto the docking platform, Ambassador Kelvax approached them. Ms. Barrett, Diplomat Cooper, welcome aboard the Solarian Light. If you will follow me, we have prepared accommodations for you until the ceremony. They were escorted through corridors that seemed to be alive, with subtle lighting that shifted and flowed within the walls themselves. Maya noticed that while the environment was distinctly Valerian in design, efforts had been made to accommodate human comfort. The temperature and humidity had been adjusted to Earth's standard levels, and the gravity felt normal. The quarters assigned to Maya were spacious and luxurious by any standard. A large viewport offered a breathtaking view of the planet below, while the furnishings, though clearly designed with Valerian aesthetics in mind, had been arranged for human use. Rest well, Ms. Barrett, Ambassador Kelvax said as he prepared to leave her. Attendants will come for you 2 hours before the ceremony to assist with your preparations. When he had gone, Maya wandered the suite in disbelief. Just hours ago, she had been checking inventory at the stellar stop. Now she was aboard an Imperial Valerian vessel, preparing to participate in a ceremony that might affect interstellar relations. She approached the viewport and gazed down at New Phoenix. From orbit, the colony looked so small, just a tiny cluster of lights on the planet's surface. Somewhere down there was her little apartment, the stellar stop, the life she had always known. What have you gotten yourself into, Maya? She whispered to her reflection in the transparent material of the viewport. Despite the surreal circumstances, exhaustion eventually overcame her, and Maya fell asleep in a bed designed for humans but crafted with Valerian artistry. She was awakened by a soft chime from a panel near the bed. As she sat up, disoriented, the events of the previous night came rushing back. She was on a Valerian Imperial vessel, about to participate in some kind of ceremony. The door to her quarters slid open to admit 2 female Valerians in what appeared to be ceremonial service attire. They carried with them several containers and what looked like clothing. Good morning, Ms. Barrett. The elder of the 2 greeted her. I am Senva, and this is Laurel. We have been assigned to assist with your preparation for the acknowledgement ceremony. Maya ran a hand through her tangled hair. What exactly does that involve? Senva opened one of the containers, revealing what appeared to be fabric of an iridescent blue color. The Patriarch has requested that you be presented in appropriate ceremonial attire. With your permission, we will help you dress and prepare according to the protocols. What followed was a whirlwind of activity as the 2 attendants efficiently guided Maya through a process unlike anything she had experienced before. First came a brief but thorough cleansing in a chamber that used some kind of sonic technology rather than water. Then Senva applied several fragrant oils to Maya's skin and hair, explaining that each had symbolic significance in Valerian culture. This essence of Kalari blossom represents truth of spirit, she said as she dabbed a shimmering oil at Maya's wrists and throat. And this extract of Voro's root signifies the groundedness of one's intentions. The garments they had brought were surprisingly comfortable despite their elaborate appearance. The base layer was a simple shift of a material that felt like silk but seemed to regulate temperature perfectly. Over this went a more structured robe in that striking iridescent blue, adorned with subtle patterns that caught the light as Maya moved. The sleeves ended just below her elbows, and the hemline reached her ankles. The blue is significant, Laurel explained as she arranged the fabric carefully. It is the color of House Silverian, but also the color traditionally associated with unexpected gifts in our culture. They added minimal jewelry, just a simple circlet for her hair and a bracelet of intricately worked metal for her left wrist. Both pieces were elegant but not ostentatious. The circlet identifies you as an honored guest of the Imperial court, Senva explained. And the bracelet marks you specifically as one who has earned the personal recognition of the Patriarch. When they had finished, They guided Maya to a reflective surface to view the results. She hardly recognized herself. The garments and subtle cosmetics they had applied emphasized her features without overwhelming them. She looked dignified, even regal, yet still recognizably herself. "Is this really necessary for a simple acknowledgement?" Maya asked, turning to examine the flow of the robes. Senva and Laurel exchanged glances. "The ceremony is perhaps more significant than you have been led to believe," Senva said carefully. "But it is not our place to explain. The ambassador and the patriarch will provide all necessary context." Before Maya could press for more information, there was another chime at the door. It slid open to reveal Diplomat Cooper, also dressed in formal attire, though hers was in the style of Earth diplomatic corps rather than Valerian design. "Well," Cooper said, taking in Maya's transformation with raised eyebrows. "Don't you look Imperial? They're ready for us in the ceremonial hall." As they walked through the corridors, Maya noticed an increasing number of Valerians moving purposefully in the same direction. Many wore elaborate formal attire that made them look like living works of art. "I thought this was going to be a small ceremony," Maya whispered to Cooper. The diplomat's expression was unreadable. "So did I initially. It seems the patriarch has elevated the significance somewhat." They arrived at a set of massive doors inscribed with what Maya assumed were Valerian symbols. Two guards in ornate armor stood at attention, their ceremonial weapons crossed before the entrance. At Cooper and Maya's approach, they uncrossed their weapons and the doors silently parted. Beyond lay a vast chamber that took Maya's breath away. The ceiling soared at least 30 meters overhead, with intricate patterns that seemed to mimic a star field. The walls curved organically, meeting in graceful arches that supported the dome above. The floor was a polished material that reflected the subtle lighting, creating the impression that they were walking on water. And the chamber was full. Hundreds of Valerians stood in what appeared to be hierarchical groupings, their attire indicating various houses, guilds, and military orders. At the far end of the hall, upon a raised dais, sat a semicircle of Valerians whose elaborate regalia marked them as officials of the highest rank. At the center of this semicircle, seated on what could only be described as a throne, was the elderly Valerian whom Maya had encountered at the stellar stop. Patriarch Talvarin no longer looked like the frail traveler she had met. Though his age was still evident in the lines of his face and the paleness of his eyes, he now carried himself with unmistakable authority. His robes were magnificent, layers of that same iridescent blue, but adorned with symbols and patterns that seemed to hold profound significance. The walking stick he had used at the store had been replaced by a staff of office, topped with what appeared to be a crystalline representation of a stellar phenomenon. As Maya and Cooper approached, a hush fell over the assembly. Ambassador Kelvax stepped forward to meet them at the base of the dais. "Remember," Cooper murmured to Maya, "just follow the ambassador's lead. Bow when he bows, speak when asked to speak." Kelvax inclined his head toward them. "The Imperial Court of the Valerian people welcomes Maya Barrett of New Phoenix Colony," he announced, his voice carrying throughout the chamber without apparent amplification. "Approach, that you may be acknowledged by Patriarch Talvarin of House Silverian, voice of the Imperial throne." Maya followed Kelvax as he ascended the steps of the dais. When they stood 3 paces from the Patriarch's seat, Kelvax performed an elaborate bow that Maya did her best to imitate. Patriarch Run regarded her silently for a long moment, his 4 eyes seeming to look not just at her, but into her. Then he spoke, his voice stronger and more resonant than it had been in the store. "Maya Barrett of Earth," he began, using the name of humanity's homeworld rather than her colony. "Do you understand why you have been brought before this gathering?" Maya glanced uncertainly at Kelvax before answering. "I believe it's because I assisted you at the stellar stop, Your Excellency." She wasn't sure of the proper form of address. A ripple of what might have been amusement passed through the assembly. "Partially correct," the Patriarch replied, "but incomplete. You are here because in that moment, you demonstrated the quality that we Valerians value above all others, cavallari." The word wasn't translated by Maya's universal translator, suggesting it had no direct equivalent in human languages. "Cavallari," the Patriarch continued, seeming to sense her confusion, "is the principle that one's true character is revealed not in grand gestures performed before an audience, but in small actions taken when one believes no one of consequence is watching. He leaned forward slightly. You did not know who I was. You had no reason to believe your act would ever be acknowledged or rewarded. You simply saw a being in need and chose to help, despite the historical tensions between our peoples. The patriarch raised his staff, and the crystalline formation at its top began to glow with an inner light. Such actions are rare and precious, Maya Barrett. They remind us that beneath the complexities of politics and history, there exists a simple truth. Sentient beings, regardless of species, are capable of compassion without calculation. He gestured, and a Valerian whom Maya had not noticed before stepped forward, carrying what appeared to be a small chest. House Silverian has long advocated for renewed dialogue with humanity, the patriarch continued. But we have been opposed by those who see only the conflicts of the past. Your simple act of kindness has provided something that decades of diplomatic negotiations could not. Evidence that humans and Valerians can interact with mutual respect and genuine goodwill. The patriarch nodded to the chest-bearer, who opened the container to reveal a medallion on a chain. The medallion was crafted of a metal Maya didn't recognize, inscribed with Valerian symbols, and set with a stone that seemed to capture and refract light in impossible ways. This is the Silverian medallion of Cavallari. The patriarch explained as the bearer lifted it from the chest. It has been bestowed only 17 times in the 900-year history of our house. It marks its bearer as one whose character has been personally witnessed and affirmed by the ruling patriarch or matriarch. Maya's eyes widened as she realized what was happening. This was no simple acknowledgement. It was a high honor in Valerian culture. By accepting this medallion, the patriarch continued, you become a friend of House Silverian, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. More significantly, you become living proof that humanity possesses the qualities that Valerians hold in highest esteem. He gestured for Maya to step forward. Do you accept this recognition, Maya Barrett of Earth? Maya felt a moment of panic. She glanced at Diplomat Cooper, who gave an almost imperceptible nod of encouragement. This was clearly more than anyone had anticipated, but it was equally clear that refusing would constitute a serious diplomatic setback. Maya stepped forward and bowed her head. I am honored to accept, Patriarch Run. The bearer placed the medallion around her neck. It was surprisingly light despite its substantial appearance, and as it settled against her chest, Maya felt a subtle warmth emanating from it. Rise, friend of House Silverian, the patriarch proclaimed. Let it be known throughout the Empire that this human has demonstrated the quality of Cavallari and has been recognized accordingly. The assembly responded with a sound that Maya's translator rendered as a form of ritual affirmation. The patriarch then did something unexpected. He slowly rose from his seat and stepped forward until he stood directly before Maya. Despite his age, he stood tall, his four eyes level with hers. What began as a simple journey of observation ends with a discovery of profound significance, he said, his voice now pitched for her ears alone. You have given an old being hope, Maya Barrett. Hope that the future may yet see our peoples understand one another. He raised his voice once more to address the assembly. Let the acknowledgement be recorded and the friendship be honored. This gathering is concluded. As the ceremony ended and the assembly began to disperse, Maya remained on the dais, still stunned by the unexpected turn of events. Ambassador Kelvax approached her, accompanied by Diplomat Cooper and several Valerian officials whom Maya did not recognize. Congratulations, friend of House Silverian, Kelvax said with what appeared to be genuine warmth. You have received one of our people's highest honors. I don't understand, Maya replied, her hand unconsciously rising to touch the medallion at her throat. All this for paying for someone's groceries. One of the unknown Valerians, a female whose elaborate headdress marked her as someone of significant rank, spoke. Human Barrett, I am Counselor Marivalli of the High Imperial Council. Allow me to provide some context that may help you understand the significance of what has transpired here. Maya nodded, still somewhat dazed. The Valerian Empire and Earth have maintained what you might call a cold peace for 3 decades, Counselor Marivalli explained. Trade is minimal, diplomatic exchanges are formal and infrequent, and cultural understanding has stagnated. This situation benefits neither of our peoples. For years, Ambassador Kelvax added, House Silverian has advocated for a renewal of meaningful dialogue with humanity. We have argued that the conflicts of the past arose from misunderstandings rather than fundamental incompatibilities. But you faced opposition, Maya guessed. Significant opposition, Maravali confirmed. Many influential houses and military orders believe that humans are inherently unpredictable, potentially dangerous. They point to humanity's rapid technological advancement and territorial expansion as evidence that your species cannot be trusted with closer ties to the Empire. Which is why the Patriarch's journey was so important, Cooper interjected. He wanted to see for himself whether humans and Valerians could interact peacefully on an individual level, away from the politics and posturing of official diplomacy. Ambassador Kelvax nodded. Precisely. And what he found, what you demonstrated, was that at least some humans are capable of seeing beyond species differences to recognize shared needs and respond with compassion. The bestowal of the Medallion of Cavallari is no mere symbolic gesture, Counselor Maravali continued. It carries weight in our legislative processes. As a recognized friend of House Silverian, your testimony regarding human character and intentions will be considered authoritative in council deliberations. Maya felt a weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. You're saying that I'm now, what, some kind of diplomatic representative? In a sense, Kelvax confirmed, though not in the formal capacity that diplomat Cooper serves. You represent something different, the possibility of genuine understanding between ordinary Valerians and ordinary humans. Diplomat Cooper placed a reassuring hand on Maya's arm. No one expects you to suddenly become a politician, Maya. But your experience, and the Patriarch's recognition of it, has created an opening that both our governments can build upon. Before Maya could respond, a young Valerian aide approached and bowed to Ambassador Kelvax. They exchanged a few words in their native language, too rapid for Maya's translator to process. Kelvax turned back to the group. It seems the Patriarch wishes to speak with friend Barrett privately before she returns to New Phoenix. If you would follow Nalan, he will escort you. Maya glanced uncertainly at Cooper, who nodded encouragingly. I'll wait for you in the reception area. Take your time. The aide led Maya through a series of corridors and smaller chambers, eventually arriving at what appeared to be a private garden within the vessel. Maya was astonished to see living plants growing in carefully arranged patterns, with small channels of water flowing between raised beds of vegetation. The air here was warmer and more humid than in the rest of the ship, presumably to accommodate the needs of the flora. Patriarch Ren sat on a simple stone bench near a pool in which creatures similar to Earth's koi swam lazily. He had removed his ceremonial headdress and some of the more elaborate layers of his robes, making him appear more like the elderly traveler Maya had first encountered. He gestured for her to join him on the bench. As she sat beside him, Maya noticed that his walking stick, the one he had used in the store, leaned against the bench. It seemed out of place amid the grandeur of the ship. You appear overwhelmed, Maya Barrett, the Patriarch observed, his voice once again the softer, more gravelly tone she remembered from the stellar stop. I am, Maya admitted. Yesterday, I was just a convenience store clerk. Today, I'm apparently a friend of a Valerian great house and some kind of unofficial diplomat. The Patriarch made a sound that Maya's translator interpreted as a gentle laugh. Life seldom follows the paths we anticipate. I certainly did not expect, when I began my journey, to find such a perfect embodiment of Cavallari in a human convenience store. He reached for his walking stick and ran his gnarled fingers over its polished surface. This was crafted from a branch of the Silverian ancestral tree, a living connection to my house's origins. I carry it to remind myself that no matter how lofty one's position becomes, one's roots remain unchanged. The Patriarch turned his amber eyes to Maya. You wonder why such elaborate recognition for so small an act. Let me explain something about Valerian culture that few humans understand. He gestured to the garden around them. We are, at our core, cultivators. Before we reached for the stars, we tended soil. Our first technologies were not weapons, but tools for nurturing growth. This fundamental aspect of our nature shapes our view of the universe and other species. The Patriarch pointed to a small plant, with delicate purple blooms. That is a Valerian night orchid. It is exceedingly rare and notoriously difficult to cultivate. Yet here it thrives, far from its native soil, because we have learned that with proper care and attention to its unique needs, it can flourish even in alien environments. Maya began to understand the metaphor. You're saying that relations between our species are like cultivating a difficult plant. Precisely, the patriarch confirmed. For too long, both our peoples have focused on the difficulties rather than the possibilities. We have said, the conditions are not right for growth, rather than asking, how can we create conditions where growth becomes possible? He reached out, and, somewhat to Maya's surprise, patted her hand with his own four-fingered one. Your small act of kindness was like the first shoot breaking through soil, evidence that something can grow where previously there seemed to be only barren ground. The patriarch's expression grew more serious. I have lived for 173 of your Earth years, Maya Barrett. I have seen conflicts begin and end. I have witnessed technologies transform our societies. But the most meaningful changes, the ones that truly alter the course of history, often begin with the smallest actions. He gestured to the medallion she wore. That symbol you carry grants you certain formal privileges within Valerian society, but its true value lies in what it represents, the possibility of genuine connection between our peoples. What happens now? Maya asked. Now, the patriarch replied, we build upon the foundation you have inadvertently created. Ambassador Kelvax will be extending an invitation to Earth's diplomatic corps for renewed cultural exchanges. The High Council, influenced by today's ceremony, will likely approve increased trade allowances and scientific collaborations. He smiled, a subtle expression on his alien features, but one Maya could recognize. And you, Maya Barrett, will return to your life in New Phoenix, perhaps a bit changed by this experience. Will I see you again? Maya asked, surprised by how much she hoped the answer would be yes. The universe unfolds in unexpected ways, the patriarch replied enigmatically. But House Silverian does not forget its friends. He reached into a pocket of his robe and withdrew a small device no larger than Maya's thumb. This is a direct communication link to House Silverian. Should you ever have need of assistance, or simply wish to speak with me or my family, you need only activate it. Maya accepted the device, turning it over in her fingers. It was seamless, with no obvious controls or interfaces. It responds to your touch and voice, the patriarch explained. It will recognize you as its authorized user. He rose from the bench, leaning on his walking stick. Now, I believe it is time for you to return to New Phoenix. Your brief absence has already set certain diplomatic wheels in motion, and soon both our peoples will feel the effects of our chance encounter. As they walked back through the garden, the patriarch spoke again. One last thing, Maya Barrett. The kindness you showed me. Continue to show it to others, Valerian or human or any sentient being. That is how we truly change the cosmos, one small act at a time. The return journey to New Phoenix was considerably more relaxed than the frantic departure had been. Maya, still wearing the Valerian ceremonial attire but now with a light travel cloak provided by the ship's attendants, sat beside Diplomat Cooper in the comfortable passenger compartment of the shuttle. So, Cooper said as they began their descent toward the colony, how does it feel to have accidentally become a pivotal figure in interspecies diplomacy? Maya laughed, the tension of the past 24 hours finally beginning to release. Surreal. I keep thinking I'll wake up and find this was all an elaborate dream. She touched the medallion at her throat, which she had been told she could continue to wear if she wished. Do you really think this will make a difference in relations between our peoples? Cooper nodded, her expression serious. More than you might imagine. The Valerians place enormous importance on personal connections and demonstrated character. Having a human officially recognized by one of their most prestigious houses, especially by the patriarch himself, creates a precedent that can't be easily dismissed by those who oppose closer ties. The diplomat studied Maya for a moment. Your life is going to change, you know. Once word of this gets out, and it will, you'll find yourself with opportunities you never expected. Maya frowned. I'm not sure I want my life to change. I'm just a convenience store clerk. I like my job, my apartment, my routine. And you can keep all of those if you wish, Cooper assured her. No one's going to force you into a diplomatic role, but you should know that both Earth's government and the Valerian Empire will be watching you with interest. Your unique position makes you valuable to both sides. Great, Maya muttered. Political attention is exactly what I've always wanted. Cooper laughed. It's not all bad. And who knows? You might find that you enjoy having a foot in both worlds. The shuttle touched down at New Phoenix's small spaceport, where a small delegation of colonial officials waited to receive them. Maya was surprised to see the colony's governor among them. As she descended the shuttle's ramp, the governor stepped forward to greet her. Ms. Barrett, welcome back. I understand congratulations are in order. Maya shook the offered hand somewhat awkwardly. Thank you, Governor. Though I'm still not entirely sure what I did to deserve it. Sometimes the smallest actions have the greatest impact, the governor replied, echoing the patriarch's words. The colonial administration has been informed of your new status as a friend of House Silverian. Should you require any assistance or accommodations as you adjust to this role, please don't hesitate to contact my office directly. Maya thanked him, feeling increasingly uncomfortable with the attention. All she wanted now was to return to her apartment and process everything that had happened. As if sensing her discomfort, Diplomat Cooper intervened. If you don't mind, Governor, I think Ms. Barrett could use some rest after the events of the past day. Perhaps we could arrange a more formal debriefing tomorrow? The governor readily agreed, and soon Maya found herself being escorted back to her apartment building by a small colonial security detail. As they approached, she noticed with dismay that a small crowd had gathered outside. News of her unexpected diplomatic adventure had evidently already spread through New Phoenix's gossip networks. Is there another way in? She asked the security officer beside her. He nodded sympathetically. Service entrance in the rear. This way. They managed to slip into the building unnoticed, and soon Maya was back in her apartment. It looked exactly as she had left it the night before, her half-prepared meal still sitting on the counter, her work uniform draped over a chair. Yet everything had changed. Maya carefully removed the Valerian ceremonial robes, folding them with the respect they deserved, and placed them in her closet. She kept the medallion on, however, its unfamiliar weight against her chest a tangible reminder that the events of the past day had been real. She moved to the apartment's single window and looked out at the New Phoenix skyline. Somewhere up there, beyond the dome that protected the colony from the planet's harsh atmosphere, the Valerian diplomatic vessel orbited. And aboard that vessel, decisions were being made that might affect the future of human-Valerian relations for decades to come. All because she had paid for an old alien's food. What now? Maya asked her reflection in the window. As if in answer, her communication panel chimed. She crossed the room and activated it, expecting perhaps a call from the governor's office or even Diplomat Cooper. Instead, the manager of the stellar stop appeared on the screen, looking frazzled. Maya, thank goodness. I've been trying to reach you since this morning. Is it true? The rumors about you and the Valerians. Maya couldn't help but laugh. It's a long story, Mr. Jenkins. Well, whatever happened, I hope it won't keep you from your shift tomorrow. Tuesday deliveries are coming in, and you know how Reynolds never gets the inventory sorted properly. The normalcy of the request was oddly comforting. Despite everything that had happened, despite the medallion she now wore and the communication device from House Silverian tucked safely in her pocket, she was still Maya Barrett, convenience store clerk. I'll be there, she promised. 8 o'clock sharp. When the call ended, Maya found herself smiling. Perhaps Patriarch Ren had been right. Life seldom follows the paths we anticipate. But that didn't mean she had to abandon the path she had chosen. Maybe she could be both Maya Barrett of the Stellar Stop and Maya Barrett, friend of House Silverian. She touched the medallion again, thinking of the elderly Valerian who had changed her life. One small act at a time, she murmured to herself. That's how we change the cosmos. The next morning, Maya woke to the familiar sound of her alarm. For a brief, disorienting moment, she thought the events of the previous day might have been a dream, until she felt the weight of the medallion still hanging around her neck. She rose and prepared for work as usual, though she decided to wear a high-neck shirt that would keep the medallion concealed. The last thing she wanted was to draw attention to herself during her shift. She tucked the Silverian communication device into her pocket, not because she expected to use it, but because it felt wrong to leave something so valuable unattended in her apartment. When she stepped outside her building, Maya was relieved to find no waiting crowds or journalists. Apparently, the colonial security forces had managed to keep the details of her adventure relatively quiet, at least for now. The walk to the stellar stop was uneventful, though Maya found herself looking at the familiar streets of New Phoenix with new eyes. Yesterday, this had been her entire world. Now, having seen the colony from orbit, having stood in the ceremonial hall of a Valerian Imperial vessel, her perspective had shifted in ways she was still struggling to process. When she arrived at the store, Mr. Jenkins was already there, checking in the Tuesday deliveries. He looked up as she entered, his expression a mixture of curiosity and concern. "You're really here," he said, sounding surprised despite their conversation the previous evening. Maya smiled as she put on her work apron. "Where else would I be?" "I don't know," Jenkins replied, gesturing vaguely upward. "With your new alien friends? There are rumors all over the colony that you've been made some kind of Valerian ambassador." "Not quite," Maya said, moving to help him with the inventory. "It's complicated, but nothing's changed. I'm still me, and I still need this job." Jenkins studied her for a moment, then shrugged. "Well, I'm glad to hear it. Though I have to admit, having an employee with connections to the Valerian Empire might come in handy. Maybe we could get a better deal on those imported Valerian teas everyone's been asking for." Maya laughed, grateful for his attempt at normalcy. "I'll see what I can do." The morning passed in the familiar routine of inventory, stocking shelves, and serving the occasional customer. Maya found the ordinary work soothing after the surreal events of the previous day. Here, she was just Maya the clerk, not Maya the unexpected diplomat. Around midday, the store's door chimed, and Maya looked up to see Diplomat Cooper entering. The woman had changed from her formal attire into casual clothes that wouldn't draw attention in the colony, but her bearing still marked her as someone accustomed to more formal settings. "Ms. Barrett," Cooper greeted her with a smile. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "Just restocking the protein bars," Maya replied, placing the last box on the shelf. "Can I help you find something?" Cooper glanced around to ensure no other customers were nearby before speaking in a lower voice. "Actually, I wanted to update you on some developments. Is there somewhere we could speak privately for a moment?" Maya gestured toward the small break room at the back of the store. "Mr. Jenkins," she called to her manager, "I'm taking my lunch break now, if that's okay." Jenkins waved his approval, and Maya led Cooper to the modest room with its single table and food preservation unit. "Not exactly diplomatic quarters," Maya said apologetically as they sat down. Cooper smiled. "I've had meetings in far less comfortable settings, believe me." Her expression turned more serious. "I wanted you to hear this from me before it becomes public. This morning, the Valerian High Council voted to establish a permanent diplomatic mission here on New Phoenix." Maya stared at her. "Here? But this is just a small colony. Wouldn't they want their mission on Earth?" "Oh, they'll maintain their existing embassy on Earth," Cooper assured her. "But they want a secondary mission here specifically because of what happened with you and Patriarch Rin. They're calling it a cultural exchange initiative, but it's really the first step toward normalized relations." "That's good, right?" Maya asked, trying to process the implications. "Very good," Cooper confirmed. "It creates opportunities for regular interactions between humans and Valerians in a setting less formal than traditional diplomatic channels. And it gives both sides a chance to learn about each other without the baggage of past conflicts getting in the way." She reached into her pocket and withdrew a small data chip, which she placed on the table between them. "Which brings me to the reason for my visit. Earth's diplomatic corps would like to offer you a position." Maya blinked in surprise. "A position? As what?" "Cultural liaison to the Valerian mission," Cooper replied. "Your unique status as a friend of House Silverian makes you ideally suited for the role. You'd help facilitate interactions between the Valerians and the human population of New Phoenix, assist with cultural misunderstandings, that sort of thing." Maya frowned. "But I don't have any diplomatic training. I'm a convenience store clerk." "Which is precisely why you're perfect for the job," Cooper explained. "We don't need another formal diplomat. We need someone who understands ordinary life here in the colony, someone the Valerians already respect because of your interaction with the Patriarch." She tapped the data chip. "All the details are here, compensation, responsibilities, training. The position would be part-time initially, allowing you to continue working here if you wish. As the Valerian presence grows, it could potentially become a full-time role. Maya picked up the chip, turning it over in her fingers. I don't know what to say. You don't have to decide immediately, Cooper assured her. Take some time to think about it. But I will say this. You have a rare opportunity to be part of something historic, Maya. The reopening of meaningful relations between humans and Valerians could change the future for both our peoples. Maya slipped the chip into her pocket alongside the Silverian communication device. I'll think about it. That's all I ask, Cooper said, rising from her seat. And whatever you decide, know that your actions have already made a difference. Sometimes the universe turns on the smallest of kindnesses. After Cooper left, Maya returned to her work, her mind whirling with possibilities she had never before considered. The familiar tasks of the convenience store, checking inventory, assisting customers, cleaning displays, now seemed both comfortingly normal and strangely insignificant compared to the role she was being offered. As her shift neared its end, the store's door chimed again. Maya looked up, half expecting another diplomat or government official. Instead, she saw a young Valerian, perhaps the equivalent of a human teenager, cautiously entering the store. Young Valerians were even rarer in human space than adults of their species. This one moved with the awkward self-consciousness of adolescence that seemed universal across sentient species. His skin was a brighter blue than Patriarch Wren's, unmarked by age, and his four eyes darted nervously around the unfamiliar environment. Maya approached him with a welcoming smile. Good afternoon. Can I help you find something? The young Valerian startled slightly at being addressed directly. Ah, yes. I am looking for nutritional supplements compatible with Valerian physiology. We have a small selection in aisle 3, Maya replied, gesturing toward the relevant section. Let me show you. As she led him to the appropriate shelf, she noticed him studying her with barely concealed curiosity. Are you new to New Phoenix? She asked conversationally. The young Valerian nodded. I arrived this morning with the advance party for the Cultural Exchange Initiative. My parent is a cultural anthropologist specializing in human societies. That sounds fascinating, Maya said sincerely. I'm Maya, by the way. The young Valerian's eyes widened. Maya Barrett, the human who assisted Patriarch Wren. Maya felt her cheeks warm with embarrassment. News travels fast. The story is being shared throughout the Empire, the young Valerian said, his voice filled with what sounded like awe. You are something of a celebrity among my people now. For paying for someone's groceries, Maya said, shaking her head in disbelief. I still don't understand why it was such a big deal. The young Valerian seemed to hesitate before responding. May I explain something about our culture? Something that might help you understand. Please, Maya encouraged him. Valerians live long lives compared to humans, he began. Our extended lifespan has shaped our society in ways that are sometimes difficult for shorter-lived species to comprehend. We tend to move slowly, to deliberate extensively before acting, to value stability and tradition over rapid change. He gestured to the store around them. Humans, with your briefer lives, move quickly. You innovate constantly. You take risks that seem reckless to us. These differences have been at the core of the misunderstandings between our peoples. The young Valerian selected a container of nutrient paste from the shelf. What you did for the Patriarch, a spontaneous act of kindness without calculation of benefit, demonstrated a quality that many Valerians had come to believe humans lacked. The ability to see beyond immediate advantage to recognize shared needs across species boundaries. He looked at Maya with an expression she couldn't quite interpret. In a single moment, you challenged decades of assumptions about human nature. That is why your simple act carries such significance. Maya considered his words as they walked back to the counter. I think I'm beginning to understand. But it still seems like a lot of diplomatic weight to place on one person's shoulders. Perhaps, the young Valerian conceded as he presented his payment chip. But is that not how most significant changes begin? With individual actions that inspire others to reconsider their assumptions? As she processed his purchase, Maya was struck by the wisdom in his words. You know, for someone so young, you have quite a philosophical perspective. The young Valerian made a sound that her translator rendered as a self-conscious laugh. My parent says I think too much for my own good. Maya smiled as she handed him his purchase. Well, I think your parent has a thoughtful child to be proud of. The young Valerian ducked his head in what appeared to be the Valerian equivalent of a blush. Thank you, Maya Barrett. I am honored to have met you. After he left, Maya found herself still pondering his words as she closed up the store for the evening. Walking home through the familiar streets of New Phoenix, she felt as though she stood at a crossroads. Her familiar life in one direction, an unexpected path of interspecies diplomacy in the other. When she reached her apartment building, she was surprised to find Patriarch Ren waiting outside, once again dressed in simple traveling robes and leaning on his walking stick. He was accompanied by a single attendant who stood at a respectful distance. Patriarch Ren, Maya greeted him with genuine pleasure. I didn't expect to see you again so soon. I depart for Valeria Prime tomorrow, the elderly alien explained. But I wish to speak with you once more before I leave. Would you walk with me? The evening air is pleasant by human standards, I believe. Maya nodded, and they set off along the quiet residential street, the attendant following several paces behind. I am told the diplomatic corps has offered you a position, the patriarch said after they had walked in comfortable silence for a few moments. Word travels quickly, Maya observed. Indeed, the patriarch agreed. Though in this case, I was informed as a courtesy due to your connection to House Silverian. He glanced at her. Have you decided whether to accept? Maya shook her head. I'm still considering it. It's all happened so quickly, and I'm not sure I'm qualified for such a role. The patriarch made a sound that might have been a chuckle. Qualification is an interesting concept. One might argue that your demonstrated empathy and lack of preconceptions make you more qualified than many career diplomats. They paused at a small community garden, one of many scattered throughout New Phoenix to provide both aesthetic beauty and supplemental fresh produce for the colonists. May I share a Valerian perspective that might help you in your decision? The patriarch asked, gesturing to a bench within the garden. As they sat, Maya noticed how the evening light caught the intricate patterns woven into his simple robes, subtle indicators of his status that she would have missed before her crash course in Valerian culture. In Valerian tradition, the patriarch began, we speak of nodal points, moments when multiple potential futures converge and a single action determines which path will manifest. Your species might call them turning points or pivotal moments. He gestured to the plants growing in neat rows before them. Like a gardener deciding which shoots to nurture and which to prune, individuals sometimes find themselves at these nodal points, making choices that will shape not only their own futures, but those of many others. The patriarch turned his amber eyes to Maya. You stand at such a nodal point now, Maya Barrett. The choice you make, whether to accept this diplomatic role or continue your current path, will influence the development of relations between our peoples for generations to come. Maya felt the weight of his words. That's a lot of responsibility to place on one person's shoulders. It is, the patriarch acknowledged. Yet such is the nature of history. It is not made only by those who seek to make it, but often by those who simply find themselves in the right place at the right time, with the wisdom to recognize the importance of the moment. He reached out and, somewhat to Maya's surprise, took her hand in his. I do not tell you this to pressure you toward one choice or another. Whatever path you choose will be the right one for you. I merely wish you to understand the context in which your decision exists. Maya looked down at their joined hands, hers with 5 fingers, his with 4, and was struck by how natural the contact felt. A week ago, she had never touched a Valerian. Now she sat hand in hand with their most revered elder. Thank you for your guidance, Patriarch Ren, she said sincerely. It helps to hear your perspective. He released her hand and slowly rose from the bench. I must return to my vessel now. Whether our paths cross again in this life remains to be seen, but know that you have made a lasting impression on this old being's heart. The patriarch reached into his robe and withdrew a small object that he pressed into Maya's hand. It was a seed, similar in size and shape to an earth acorn, but with a pearlescent sheen to its surface. This is a seed from the Silverian ancestral tree, he explained. They are rarely given to those outside our house. Plant it here, in the soil of New Phoenix, and let it serve as a living symbol of what may grow from small beginnings. Maya closed her fingers carefully around the precious gift. I will. Farewell, Maya Barrett, friend of House Silverian, the patriarch said, bowing his head respectfully. Whatever you decide, remember that sometimes the smallest actions create the greatest changes. With that, he turned and walked away, his attendant falling into step beside him. Maya watched until they disappeared around a corner, then opened her hand to look at the seed resting in her palm. In the evening light, it seemed to glow with an inner luminescence, full of potential life waiting to emerge. She looked around the community garden, seeking an appropriate spot. Near the center was a small area that had been left unplanted, perhaps waiting for the next season's crops. Maya knelt beside it and carefully dug a small hole with her fingers. She placed the Silverian seed within and covered it gently with soil. From small beginnings, she murmured, echoing the patriarch's words. As she rose and brushed the dirt from her hands, Maya felt a sense of certainty settling over her. She reached into her pocket and withdrew the data chip Cooper had given her, studying it in the fading light. The universe had placed her at a nodal point, as the patriarch had called it, a moment where her decision would ripple outward in ways she couldn't fully comprehend. The responsibility was enormous, but so was the opportunity. Maya slipped the chip back into her pocket and began walking home, her steps more purposeful than before. Tomorrow she would contact Diplomat Cooper and accept the position. She would continue working at the Stellar Stop for now, maintaining her connection to the ordinary life of the colony while building bridges to the Valerian visitors. And in time, perhaps she would see the seed she had planted, both literally in the garden and figuratively in the relations between their peoples, grow into something strong and enduring. As she approached her apartment building, Maya touched the medallion that still hung around her neck, a tangible reminder of how a small act of kindness could open unexpected doors. She thought of the young Valerian who had visited the store, of Diplomat Cooper's offer, of Patriarch Wren's wise counsel. One small act at a time, she said to herself as she entered her building. That's how we change the cosmos. 3 months later, Maya stood at the entrance to New Phoenix's newly established Valerian Cultural Center, watching as the final preparations were completed for the grand opening ceremony. What had once been an underutilized community building had been transformed into a space where humans and Valerians could interact, learn from each other, and build the foundations for lasting peace. Maya's role as cultural liaison had evolved rapidly as the Valerian presence in New Phoenix grew. She still worked part-time at the Stellar Stop, a connection to normalcy she had insisted on maintaining. But most of her days were now spent facilitating interactions between the colonists and their Valerian visitors. Everything looks perfect, said a voice beside her. Maya turned to find Diplomat Cooper surveying the space with satisfaction. Almost perfect, Maya corrected with a smile. The translation panels in the historical exhibit still need some fine-tuning. Valerian temporal concepts don't map cleanly to human calendar systems. Cooper chuckled. And 3 months ago, you claimed you weren't qualified for this position. Maya shrugged. I'm learning as I go. We all are, Cooper replied, gesturing to where a group of human and Valerian children were being guided through an interactive display about the respective biologies of their species. This is uncharted territory for everyone involved. Maya watched as a young human girl and a Valerian child of similar developmental stage compared the number of fingers on their hands, both giggling at the difference. The sound of interspecies laughter filled her with hope. Have you checked on your tree today? Cooper asked. Maya nodded. It's already nearly a meter tall. The botanists can't believe the growth rate. The Silverian seed that Maya had planted in the community garden had germinated within days, and the sapling that emerged had quickly become something of a local wonder. Its trunk was a deep blue-gray color, similar to Valerian skin, but its leaves shimmered with an iridescence reminiscent of Earth's most colorful butterflies. Colonial scientists were fascinated by its rapid growth and unique properties, while the local Valerians treated it with reverence as a symbol of their house's connection to New Phoenix. The governor's talking about building a special pavilion around it, Maya added, something that honors both human and Valerian architectural traditions. Speaking of honors, Cooper said, I've been authorized to inform you that Earth's Diplomatic Corps will be formally recognizing your contributions at next month's Interstellar Relations Conference. The Secretary General herself wants to present the commendation. Maya felt a blush rising to her cheeks. That's really not necessary. I didn't do anything special. Cooper raised an eyebrow. You single-handedly catalyzed the normalization of relations with a major interstellar power. I'd say that qualifies as special. Before Maya could respond, she noticed a commotion at the center's entrance. A delegation of Valerians in formal attire was arriving, led by a familiar figure, Ambassador Kelvax Silverian. I should go greet them, Maya said, straightening the formal jacket she wore for official functions. She still felt somewhat uncomfortable in the diplomatic uniform, preferring her simple stellar stop apron, but had come to recognize the importance of symbols in interspecies relations. As she approached the delegation, Ambassador Kelvax spotted her and moved forward to meet her. They exchanged the formal greeting that had become standard between human and Valerian officials, a blend of both species' traditional gestures that Maya had helped develop. Friend Barrett, Kelvax said warmly. The center looks magnificent. Patriarch Run will be pleased to receive our report. How is the Patriarch? Maya asked. Though she had spoken with him several times via the communication device he had given her, she had not seen him in person since his departure from New Phoenix. In excellent health and spirits, Kelvax assured her. His journey has inspired many in our society to reconsider their views of humanity. Applications for cultural exchange visits to Earth and its colonies have increased tenfold since his return. Maya smiled, thinking of the seed the Patriarch had given her and the rapidly growing tree it had become. From small beginnings. Indeed, Kelvax agreed. Which reminds me, I have news that may interest you. The High Council has approved funding for the establishment of 5 additional cultural centers on Earth colonies, modeled after this one. Maya's eyes widened. That's wonderful news. There is more, Kelvax continued. The Council has specifically requested that you serve as consultant for these projects. Your unique perspective has been deemed invaluable. Maya laughed softly. You mean my lack of formal diplomatic training and tendency to treat everyone the same regardless of species or status? Precisely, Kelvax confirmed, a hint of what might have been amusement in his voice. Those qualities have proven surprisingly effective in facilitating genuine connections. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of the governor and several other colonial officials. As the formal greetings and introductions proceeded, Maya found herself stepping back, watching the interaction with a sense of pride and wonder. 3 months ago, such a gathering would have been unthinkable. Humans and Valerians mingling comfortably, discussing shared projects, even sharing occasional jokes that required no translation. Now it seemed almost normal. As the opening ceremony began, Maya took her place on the small stage that had been erected for the occasion. From this vantage point, she could see the diverse crowd that had gathered: human colonists, Valerian diplomats and their families, representatives from Earth's government, and even a few members of other species who had come to witness this historic occasion. When it came her turn to speak, Maya stepped forward to the podium. The medallion from House Silverian gleamed against her formal jacket, catching the light as she moved. 3 months ago, she began, I was working the night shift at a convenience store when an elderly Valerian came in to purchase some basic supplies. What happened next has been described as a pivotal moment in human-Valerian relations, a catalyst for the renewed dialogue we celebrate today. Maya paused, looking out at the attentive faces before her. But the truth is much simpler. I saw someone who needed help, and I helped. I didn't think about politics or history or interspecies relations. I just did what I hope anyone would do in the same situation. She gestured to the cultural center around them. This beautiful facility and everything it represents grew from that simple moment. Not because what I did was extraordinary, but because it reminded both our peoples of something we share: the capacity for spontaneous kindness, for seeing beyond differences to recognize shared needs. Maya touched the medallion at her throat. A wise Valerian once told me that we change the cosmos one small act at a time. Looking around this room today, I believe that more than ever. As she concluded her brief remarks to enthusiastic applause from both humans and Valerians, Maya felt a profound sense of rightness. Her life had taken an unexpected turn, leading her down a path she could never have anticipated. Yet somehow, it felt like exactly where she was meant to be. Later, As the formal ceremony gave way to a more relaxed reception, Maya slipped away from the center. She walked the short distance to the community garden where she had planted the Silverian seed 3 months earlier. The sapling had indeed grown remarkably, its trunk now thick as her wrist and its height surpassing that of an adult human. Its iridescent leaves rustled gently in the evening breeze, catching and reflecting the light of New Phoenix's setting sun. Maya reached out and placed her hand against the smooth bark of the young tree, feeling the life pulsing within it. According to the Valerian botanists who had examined it, this tree would continue to grow for centuries, potentially living for thousands of years, a lasting testament to the connection between their peoples. From small beginnings, she murmured, echoing the words that had become something of a personal mantra. As she stood there, hand against the Silverian tree, Maya Barrett, former convenience store clerk, friend of House Silverian, cultural liaison between two once estranged species, felt a profound sense of peace. The universe unfolded in unexpected ways, as Patriarch Ren had said. Sometimes the smallest actions created the greatest changes, and one never knew when paying for an old alien's food might change the course of interstellar history. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also, leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.